Hello and welcome to my channel. These are some supplemental videos to a book that I have called String Tech. It's an introduction to string basics. I have a string bass here. I want to talk about how the setup of the string bass, and what I mean by that is the setup is how the instrument comes to the body. This is really important. It's important that I don't go to the instrument, but the instrument actually just simply comes to me. And so a couple of things that we think about with the bass. This is a small bass, partly because you can actually see more of my studio than normal because I pushed you back so that I can get the whole bass in the picture. But so it's a little bit on the small side for me, but all these things are still going to be true. What I like to do is have basses, make sure that they're coming into the body at an angle, and a little bit of dancing so that I can kind of balance. I really don't want it like this. Right, and I don't want to be behind it. So many students, I think they say cellos, and they want to be behind the bass like such. It really needs to have an angle, and it needs to be able to balance pretty well. And I need to be able to kind of move it around a little bit. I like to say, good bass players dance a little bit with their instrument. All right, and really it's that simple. So the end pin needs to be such that it's up on your body, and that you can kind of have it at an angle. Now there's two things I look for. One is more important than the other. One thing I look for is that generally, basically, all right, the shape of the hand is going to be at the first finger on the brow and second finger on the cheek. And with my students, I would say, hey, this is the bass salute, right? And I would walk down the hallway and I'd see a bass player and I'd go, and the bass, player would look at me and she'd go like that kind of a thing, just because we're always having to work on the shape. And I'm going to talk about this in just a minute. This is really, really important because this interval is it's tough to do for kids, and they want to play like this all the time, and you have to make the shape. So that's number one. But it will generally be right at your brow. Now this is maybe a little bit low, but that's around there somewhere. And that's important. So I don't want, and this is called first position. I don't want it way down here. I also don't want it way up here. If you have only big instruments for your kids, then there's going to be way up here, and that doesn't help them. It needs to be pretty much at the brow. Now that's secondary to the bow. The bow. You want to make sure that when you bow, that your arm is going to be in a general direction right here. In other words, that's the sweet spot, and that's where the end pin needs to really go. So my bow needs to be on top of the F holes, right at the sweet spot. Now, if I have to reach down to be at the sweet spot, then my bass is too low. Okay, and if I have to kind of like do this with the sweet spot, then my bass is too high. So you really need the end pin in such a way that my arm can just pretty much naturally be right at the sweet spot. I like to tell the kids that your bow arm on a bass especially is a little bit like an elephant trunk. It's strong, but it's supple, and it moves, and it's very graceful. But there needs to be some strength in it. My arm needs to go into the string to be able to make a good sound. Okay? So that's the most important. Am I generally at the sweet spot, and I'm not hunching over and going like this to be able to play there. And then my hand right here. Now with your left hand, had a bass teacher a long time ago tell me it's really important that you just kind of feel that first finger and then make the shape. You feel where first finger goes and then you make the shape, and just be in this habit of just constantly. There we go. There you go. I always used to say just make the shape and then go, but then. Just being conscious about it. I got to put a half step between 1 and 2, a real half step, and so I got to make a space to be able to do that. And by the way, it's the same space that is from 2 to 4. On my first finger, I'm going to be playing on the corner of the finger, and 2, 3, and 4 are going to be on their fingertips. And for right now, for a long time, you don't use your third finger, but you still want it to have that discipline of being on the string when I play. Your arms need to be kind of up a little bit as you play. You don't want to, have the chicken wing. Chickens don't play bass very well. And you remember those floaties your mom gave you or your dad, and then they threw you in the pool when you were a kid, and you're kind of bouncing around with these little floaties. Think about the room filling up, and I got floaties on my arm. All right. Now my right arm kind of needs to be into the string, but it's really my left arm that just needs to be up. You know, playing bass like this is not a good thing. All right, so it needs to be up a little bit. So make the salute, bring it to the instrument, or find the first finger and make the shape on your hand. A lot of method books show you a floor that's a thumb that's parallel to the floor. And I used to teach that all the time, and then I had a kiddo say, no, that hurts, we don't do that. We actually put a little bit of an angle with our thumb. And I thought, yeah, right. And so I went and started asking around, and sure enough, a lot of bass players, they don't like that idea of parallel because it causes too much tension in the hand. So if you just put it up a little bit, it just alleviates quite a bit. It's like, wow, I like that. So that's a little bit of a change that I used to do with kiddos. So I want it there. I want it across, generally across from second finger. Second finger and thumb are buddies. All right? Second finger and thumb are buddies. And when you shift for the longest time, those two fingers really just hang out together. First finger is on the corner of the hand, and 2, 3, and 4 are on fingertips. And there needs to be space right here. Space right there with your hand. You don't come in and play like that, and you don't have your thumb sticking out looking at me while you play. It's really hard to make that whole step shape when my thumb looks like that. Thumb needs to be on the back. And you need to constantly monitor your thumb that it's behaving like it's supposed to, and you teachers need to get behind your bass section and see that it looks like this all the time. It needs to look like that. Because, all right, you don't want any other goofy thing. Sometimes I see stuff like that. It's like, no. That's not where my thumb needs to do. It needs to be behind second, a little bit of an angle, and I can make that shape. And then it comes to the body. All right? So quick review. It needs to be on the corner. End pin needs to be enough so that when I bow in the sweet spot, I'm right on the sweet spot. My left hand, the bass salute, and come up here with my thumb L pointing just ever so slightly up. And I've got a nice space between my hands, or space between the hand and the neck, and that there's space between 1 and 2, same distance between 2 and 4. Okay? Alright, that's the idea of the bass setup. So, I'll see you on the next video.